Morning, Don.
Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Hi, Rick. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Nice to see everyone again.
Hey, Rick.
I'd like to comment in the agenda about our next meeting, possibly being in person.
Yep. Getting old not being together with people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite different, this new world.
Yep.
Hi, Jim. Good morning.
How are you, Jim?
Good. I'm worried about the COVID-19 spiking up right now. That's a real concern. On the local hospital board, we had no cases a few weeks ago, and now our ICU is full again.
Yeah, I've been following that also. It's alarming, the spike. Hopefully that's all it is.
Yeah.
And Sam, can I confirm when we go into closed session, while we all have to mute our phone, our Zooms and turn off our cameras, something will also be done on the back end to ensure that there isn't any accidental? Oh, I can't hear you.
Yeah, so staff will make sure everybody's muted and that their videos are turned off.
Perfect. Thank you. I just want to make sure.
And then we just call in on a cell or a
Correct.
phone. Yeah, right.
Mr. Chair, I think we're about ready to go. It's about a minute before 9, so
Very
whenever
good.
you.
I'm ready to start once it's once the clock hits on my computer. That would be the official time. So. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
Well, it's 9 a.m. I'd like to call to order the San Bernardino County Local Agency Formation Commission meeting for July 21st, 2021. I'm Jim Bagley, the public member, also the chair. This meeting will proceed as a teleconference in compliance with the waivers to certain Brown Act provisions under the governor's executive orders in response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. The agenda provides members of the public the ability to provide comments participating via Zoom video conference or Zoom via phone, either by clicking the raise hand button on the Zoom browser or on the Zoom app. Or those who are on Zoom via phone, they can also raise their hand by pressing *9. Comments and testimony from the public will be limited to 3 minutes. Additionally, the agenda also informs members of the public that they may submit written comments by mail, email, or online through the Commission's website. Public comment no later than 8 a.m. on the meeting day. These comments and testimony will be read into the meeting and record at an appropriate time. At this time now, we can proceed with the meeting. And I'd ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Good morning. Commissioner Baca. Commissioner Bagley.
I am here.
Commissioner Cox.
Present.
Commissioner Curatolo.
Here.
Commissioner Dameyer. Commissioner Dennison.
Dennison here.
Commissioner Farrell. Commissioner Hagman.
Hagman here.
Commissioner McCowan.
I'm here.
Commissioner Rao.
Good morning, I'm here.
Commissioner Warren. Thank you.
If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, you can turn your videos off. I will call it out and we'll salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This morning we have the pleasure, we have our returning member, Supervisor Don Rowe, will be alternate for the county. And Don, will you, Commissioner the Clerk, will you please give the oath to Don Rowe?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioner Rao. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me and state your name. I
I, Dawn Rao,
solemnly swear that I will support and defend
solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon
the duties upon
which I am now about to enter.
which I am now upon to enter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Supervisor Rao.
Thank you very much.
Before we move, I have the announcement to make. Anyone who's present at the hearing who is involved with any of the changes of organization to be considered and who's made a contribution of more than $250 in the past 12 months to any member of the commission will be asked to state so for the record. The commission member who received the contribution and the matters of which consideration they are involved. Is there anyone who needs to make such a statement? If not, this morning we'll be moving into a closed session item, and I will ask legal counsel to please state the item listed for the closed session.
Certainly, the commission will be going into closed session for the following items: conference with legal counsel for existing litigation. It's Comet versus City of Redlands, with the court case listed on the agenda. Conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, Montecito Equities versus San Bernardino Local Agency Formation Commission, with the case number as stated on the agenda. And also one item of significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. The two other items are pursuant to Government Code Section 54956D.9D1. With that, we can go into closed session.
All right, I'll ask the commission clerk, have there been any written comments submitted for the closed session items?
None received.
Okay. We'll now call on the public wishing to speak on this item. Please either click the raise hand button, or for those on Zoom via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9. I don't see any requests to speak. Since there's no request for comments, the commission will be convening in closed session. For the public, we will reconvene. I would ask the commissioners, please remember to mute your Zoom settings before we go into closed session, and we will return. of the commissioners.
Just a second. Just a second. We're coming back.
And Sam, can you let me know when we have most of the commission back?
Yeah. Give a second.
Hey, Sam, this is Supervisor Bach. I just want to make sure you got me earlier. I know we chatted and I got
Yes.
late. So,
We will make note of that.
okay, thank you.
Supervisor Hagman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Mr. Chair, I think we have everyone.
All right, we are reconvening the public session of the San Bernardino County Local Agency Formation Commission for July 21st, 2021. We are coming out of a closed session. I will ask legal counsel to please make an announcement regarding the items during the closed session.
Certainly. The commission met in closed session and came out of closed session at 9:37 this morning. They considered the 3 items listed on the agenda, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you. Before we move on to the items on the agenda, I'm going to clarify how we will run the meetings. I will first call on the staff to make a presentation for the next item on the agenda in numeric sequence. Following their presentation, I will call on the commissioners who may have comments or questions of staff. Then I will ask the clerk whether there are any members of the public that have submitted written comments on an item, as well as anybody on the video conference or phone who wishes to make a comment. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to comment on that item. After the public comments, I will come back to the commission to see if there are further discussion among the commissioners, and then I will ask for a motion. Because we are on a video conference, I'll ask you to please identify yourself when you make the motion in second. And finally, because we are under a unique video conference situation, we will do a roll call vote on all items. Next item on the agenda is the consent items. These are items 5 through 10. The following consent items are considered to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be acted upon by the commission at one time without discussion unless there's a request that has been received prior to the hearing to discuss the matter. Are there any consent items deferred for discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, there has been no request to pull on any items on the list of consent items. However, I do want to make a minor correction to the staff report for item 8, and which is the records destruction approval item. The last sentence on the second paragraph states that the destruction will include the 2013 and 2014 Form 700s. However, it should only be for the 2013 Form 700s that will be shredded at this time in order to keep a consistent 7-year retention of records. So in the case of calendar year 2014 to calendar year 2020, that would be the 7 years. So we made a correction to the regional staff report, but the staff report that was posted on the website was not changed out. So no, there are no changes to the recommendations for this item. It was simply a text correction on the staff report.
All right, thank you, Sam. The clerk of the board, do we have any written comments submitted for this item?
None received?
Okay, I will now call on the public on Zoom wishing to speak on this item. Please raise your hand using the raise the hand button on Zoom, or via phone, please press *9. Do we have any requests to speak?
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Hagman will move the consent items.
All right, very good. So I have a motion by Supervisor Hagman, and I assume that's as modified with Sam's recommendation. Do I have a
Yes.
second?
I will second.
Any further discussion of the commission? And Commission Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Baca,
Bach, aye.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Curatello,
Curtello, aye.
Commissioner Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Dennison, yes.
Thank you.
Very good. We will now move on to item number 12 on our agenda. We are moving into the public hearing. And staff, will you please start off with your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next slide, Hannah. LAFCO 3249 is an annexation proposal submitted by the Bighorn Desert View Water Agency at the request of the property owner in order to provide water service to the property owner's 20-acre parcel located on the south side of Napa Road between Gerber and Duker Avenues. The parcel is currently not in the agency's boundary. Therefore, annexation to the agency is required in order to receive water. So with regard to the boundaries, there are no boundary concerns since the annexation is required in order to receive water service. With regard to land use, the annexation to the agency has no direct impact on the existing land use for the area or the property itself. Therefore, there are no land use concerns related to the proposal. And for the plan for service, water will be provided to the parcel from the agency's existing 8-inch water main in Napa Road. The agency also identified an estimated cost of approximately a little over $15,000 associated with the water service connection. For environmental review, the Commission's environmental consultant has indicated that the review of LAFCO 3249 is exempt from CEQA, and this is based on the fact that the annexation of the parcel will not result in any physical impacts on the environment. Finally, one thing to note is that this proposal has landowner consent. Therefore, with regard to the waiver of protest proceedings with a 100% landowner consent and none of the affected agencies submitting any written opposition to the waiver, staff is recommending that if the Commission approves LAFCO 3249, that the protest proceedings be waived. Next slide, Hannah. Therefore, LAFCO 3249 was submitted to provide water service to the 20-acre parcel that is not within the agency's boundary. Therefore, annexation to the agency is required in order to receive water service. Staff supports approval of LAFCO 3249 and is recommending the Commission take the actions on page 1 of the staff report, which is also on the display. Certify the CEQA exemption, approve LAFCO 3249 with the conditions outlined in the resolution, including the hold harmless clause, waive protest proceedings with 100% landowner consent, and adopt LAFCO resolution 3334. And that ends my presentation. I'll be happy to answer questions at this time.
Are there any questions of LAFCO staff from the Commission?
Yeah, Mr. President, this is Supervisor Hagman. I have one for Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, has the owner stated what his intentions of use for this property is?
Not directly to me. In the application, there is a statement that there is probably a residential use that is being proposed. What the property owner will be required by the agency is to provide some sort of verification from either county's land use services department through either a land use approval or a building permit before they will provide water service.
I think all our board members know some of the issues we're having in that area out there, from a 50 to over 1,000 of illegal grows out, and they all take out the water. And we're trying to really work together with our other agencies and including our water districts to really clamp down the best we can on that. So I don't know if there's any way that we could put some kind of restrictions on this. You know, if this illegal use is done, then they forfeit this opportunity to hook up to the water district. I don't know, but those are some of my concerns. I mean, obviously, we hold our water district partners in their judicial role to make sure that they're monitoring that as well. But just know that we have those issues.
I understand, Commissioner Hagman. In fact, if you look at the staff report on page 4, at the end of that, the second paragraph, that last sentence. In addition, I specifically identify this. In addition, the agency will require the property owner to provide land use approval and or a building permit approval verification in order to receive water service. So the agency is fully aware of those issues, and therefore that is why they will ensure that the requirement for water service is for a use that is approved for that land use.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Please.
I appreciate Supervisor Hagman's comments. I have been very concerned in our rural areas with this very issue as I live amongst it in my own rural area. Is there any way that we can make some kind of a condition on the water district that if in the future an illegal crop is planted, that they are required to shut off the water?
So from a LAFCO perspective, we are precluded from doing any looking at land use in this case, but I don't know if the water agency will have the ability to shut it off if it's not a use that is approved for that particular parcel. So we'll see if the general manager, Marina, will be able to provide any information for us.
I appreciate hearing from her. I know it's a challenging time for sure.
I just remind the commission, LAFCO, we have limited ability to regulate land use under the guise of LAFCO. But we do have the Desert View Water Agency who's the applicant, and this is in the county area, and the land use will be controlled by permit processes through the county.
I concur with that, Chair, but if we have the ability to support the water district in prohibiting or making it more difficult for these types of activities, I'd love to explore that. Could we hear from the general manager of the agency, please?
Before we go there, are there any other questions of the commission? Because I also want to ask the applicant to speak. Any other questions of LAFCO staff? Marina West, are you present? Would you like to address the commission?
Can you hear me?
Hi, Marina, welcome. Yes.
Thank you, honorable members of the LAFCO Commission. This application looks rather routine, doesn't it? But it's not exactly that routine. I've heard rumors about the use on this property. And here we find ourselves trying to live in a lawful world with lawless activities overrunning our communities. A lot has transpired since this property changed hands and the new buyer discovered they'd been bamboozled by the profiteering real estate agent who never verified the status of water availability. It's a beautiful, pristine lot with a blue line stream, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's tortoise there. I noticed there's already been work at the site. It is no secret that the high desert area, including the Bighorn Desert View, is overrun by illegal cannabis cultivation. Our agency feels that we're being exploited in this situation because with every eradication, what results in minor infractions, they become more emboldened and they begin to expand and expand and expand. I'll only mention the nightmare existing in the extreme rural areas where wells are being drilled to access free water. The agency is just the water purveyor. We cannot ever be expected to enforce the laws, be engaged in land use planning, approvals, code enforcement, building safety, etc. Our property taxes go to the county to provide those services. However, this cannabis explosion is way bigger than the county. The state must take responsibility for the promises made to eradicate these black markets and illicit cultivations. And we need to run these people out of town. So while the agency supports the mission of LAFCO and we have followed all of the legal protocols for annexation of this territory, we will in fact require the property to produce a building permit for development on the property. We will no longer sell meters to vacant lands. In addition, the property owner will be required to sign what I call the cannabis farming waiver. This document will be their sworn statement agreeing that if the agency finds the property is growing cannabis or becomes eradicated for growing cannabis, then the agency will revoke the meter, refund the money minus our fees. Those are the only controls short of a moratorium on meter sales that the agency can do during this local crisis. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the commission about this. Again, it looks rather routine, doesn't it? Thank you.
Are there questions from the commission of the water district?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but I really appreciate that bold statement by the general manager. It's really a war zone out here in our rural communities as we are looking at service provision. So yeah, I hear her challenge in that and absolutely appreciate her statements. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the commission? I have a question for you, Marina. How did the Desert Bighorn View Water Agency become the applicant instead of the property owner on this particular application?
It's my understanding that that is the way LAFCO directed us to proceed.
I'll respond to that, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the applicant, the property owner is actually the co-applicant. They are requesting the water service, and they are the ones that are signing the application. The agency initiated, or not initiated, took an action to serve them through the resolution of initiation. So the agency is also the co-applicant for this one.
That's fine, thank you. It's just an unusual situation. I will remind the commission too that we are the Local Agency Formation Commission. The role is primarily to determine the proper agency to provide services, and I don't think there's any real question here, but I'm very glad to hear the proactive mitigative attempts to starve off some of this illegal use that's popping up in the desert by the district. I think it's an admirable case, but it really is a land use issue that's going to have to be addressed at the county level. Any other questions of commissioners for staff? If not, I would ask the clerk, do we have any written comments submitted on this item?
None received.
Okay, I'll now ask on the public on Zoom who wish to speak on this item. You can raise your hand for those of you who are on the Zoom application, or you are on the phone, you can press *9. Do we have any requests to speak? I don't see any requests coming in. At this time, I'm now going to close the public hearing item for item number 12, bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Are there any further comments from the commissioners before I ask for a motion? If not, I would entertain a motion on item number 12. And please identify yourself.
Chair Dennis, move the motion.
I have a motion
Curatello.
and a second by Commissioner Curatello.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are there any further discussions? And Commission Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Baca,
Buckeye.
Commissioner Bagley,
Aye.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Curatello,
Aye.
Commissioner Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Dennison, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to item number 13 on the agenda. We move on to our discussion items. Staff, will you please give item number 13?
Okay, good morning, sir. This is Michael. I'll be presenting this one, the next few items. This one, I should only be up for about 2 minutes here. So we have our year-end unaudited financial report for the year, which will include a recommendation transfer of reserves to provide budget allocation. Slide, please. So we have a theme on our staff reports. We have 3 summary charts. So here on the first 2, expenditures, salary and benefits, 85% for the year. The reason for the 15% difference is due to 2 staff members separating from LAFCO. We filled 1 spot, and due to the pandemic, we were able not to fill the second position. Services and supplies, 93%, nothing to report. For revenues, apportionment, we received all apportionments. That is great. And our fees and deposits were below goal at 83%. So the variance is explained below. If we look at our proposals, we budgeted 9, received only 4. So one would say, well, if you received only 44%, how did you get 83% of your fees and revenues as shown up above? And the reason is 2 of the proposals that were received were large. And so that brought in additional fees. And then if you look at the second row below, service contracts, commission approval, we budgeted for 2, we received 5. Those type of service contracts bring in as if it was a small proposal. So they did bring in fees that made up for the lack of proposals. So when you combine the proposals at 4 and our service contracts, commission approval at 5, that's why we get to 83% of our fees and deposits. So fair, but we would have liked to have seen it crack the 90% mark. Can you hit the next slide, please? And this is our snapshot. So we take our cash balance. There's no accounting measures in this at all. This is cash in the bank. And we minus our reserves. We have committed reserves and assigned reserves. And then we were able to forecast a carryover of budgeted money into the next year. So the 2021 budget, that was roughly $54,000 that we used in 2021 money, to help fund the 21-22 budget. We also have accounts payable and receivable at the year end. So we have additional carryover into 21-22 of $42,000 roughly. So that's a good amount. Now, this staff report is agendized as 2021. So we can't take any action going into 21-22. We're going to return to the commission at the first quarter report as well as the second quarter. That's the mid-year. And we'll bring this matter up again and saying that there's $42,000 in additional carryover into the year. However, it may not be that we do anything reserve-wise with it. It may be that this just funds additional legal activity since we are being exposed and in matters. So it may be that these funds are allocated towards that, but we don't know. We will keep monitoring and address it with the commission. And lastly, I'll go back up to the first number on our chart in the white. It's a 0. And so we have a 0 net pension liability reserve amount in the bank because we now fund and then pay within the year. So this amount was roughly $43,000 at the beginning of the year. And then we paid it in June, so that's why it's a 0. Slide, please. So we're going to ask the commission to take 2 actions today. One is to note receipt of this report and file. And number 2, transfer $43,852 from the reserve account, which is what I mentioned, where we fund our payment to SB Sarah every year. And then we're going to transfer that amount to the account that it was paid from so we can give it some budget authority. Now, you may say, why was this done? Well, SB Sarah was removing itself from the county. So at the beginning of the year, we did not know the proper account to make the payment from. So we budgeted for it in the reserve account. Throughout the year, the account was known to us. That was going to come out of 9970. So we made that payment with commission authorization from 9970. And now we just need to provide the budget authority for that to be there. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have any questions of staff? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk, do we have any written comments submitted on this item?
None received?
For those of you who are on the public, if you're on Zoom, you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the raise hand button. For those of you who are participating via phone, you can raise your hand pressing the *9 key. Do we have any requests to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to bring this item back to the commission for deliberation and motion. Are there any further questions or deliberation from the commission? If not, I would entertain a motion.
McKellen moves.
Hagman seconds.
Very good. I'll ask the commission clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Baca,
Bach, aye.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Curatolo,
Curtello, aye.
Commissioner Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison.
Dennison, yes.
Thank you.
And we will move on to item 14, which is the commission's continued monitoring of the fire service review. This is the one specific to the county fire. This item was continued from our previous meeting in May. I'd like to ask the staff to please make the presentation.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I am introducing today two people from County Fire, Chief Dan Munzie, as well as the Deputy Chief of Business Operations, Katrina Turturro. And at this time, Katrina is sharing her screen. So I'm kind of stalling here, waiting for the mechanisms to get going. They're going to present for roughly about 10 minutes this morning on the sustainability of county fire. So this is an outgrowth of the countywide fire service review that the commission heard back in February of 2020. And we continue to monitor two agencies, one of those being County Fire, long name known as San Bernardino County Fire Protection District. And so if the screen is ready to go, Hannah.
Good morning, Mike. This is Dan Muncie, your fire chief. We'll need to have permissions to be able to share a screen and our video camera, please.
Welcome, Chief Muncie.
Thank you very much. And there we are. I'm Dan Muncie. I'm your fire chief. I've been with the Fire Protection District for 26 years, since 2009 as a chief officer, the last year and a half as the fire chief. With me is Katrina Turturro, our Deputy Chief of Business Operations. Katrina, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, commissioners and staff. I'm Katrina Turturro. I've been with the County of San Bernardino for 32 years, 20 years of that in the County Administrative Office. And during that time in the County Administrative Office, I've become familiar with some of the LAFCO processes. For the last year and a half, I have been at County Fire. I'm serving as the Deputy Chief of Business Operations.
We are certainly happy to have you. Mr. Turpe, I'm still not able to do the screen sharing. I know that LAFCO has a copy of the presentation. If you prefer to share that, either way would be fine with us.
Okay, I'll give Hannah just another 30 seconds. And then if not, we'll just default to viewing Hannah's screen and just say the word slide.
Slide.
All right, Hannah, so let's just go with ours.
Okay, so it's just a little background. During the LAFCO 3231 countywide fire service review, it was indicated that County Fire should provide an update on financial sustainability. And the update is needed primarily to address the outcome of the November 2020 ballot measure to repeal the FP5 special tax and to address the funding gap that existed when the district was formed in 2008.
Slide. As the commission's aware, November 2020 ballot measure to repeal the FP5 tax was unsuccessful, with 48% of the required 50+1 voters supporting the repeal. In May 13, 2021, the district was notified that a citizen group has submitted to the San Bernardino County Register of Voters a notice of intent to circulate a petition to reinitiate a repeal for the special tax. The loss of FP5 would result in an annual revenue reduction of $41.5 million and would severely impact the district's ability to provide the current levels of service. Slide.
So on slide FP5 is a revenue breakdown, kind of showing where the different FP5 money is coming from, the special tax money. We have Hellendale, whose voters originally approved the special tax, providing about 1.2 million. And the next column shows the incorporated city annexations to FP5. And these were the ones that went through LAFCO, and it does include Upland in this column. And then we have the FP5 expansion area, which is primarily what the board of directors approved in October of 2018, for a total of the 41.5 million that the chief mentioned on the prior slide.
To make this clear, the 13.7 that you see in incorporated cities, those were 4 cities, including the cities of San Bernardino, 29 Palms, Upland, and Needles, whose councils annexed into FP5 through our fire board process. The FP5 expansion area was completed later by the fire board. Next slide, please. So because of the significant amount of money of when these cities annexed into county fire, they did this to reduce some of their own city's general fund liability, generally due to a city being in a difficult financial state, possibly in bankruptcy or facing bankruptcy. A loss of FP5 in these cities would mean a partial, or in the case of 29 Palms, a complete loss of funding to the fire district. The FP5 revenue was used, as I mentioned, to reduce the property tax revenue that the cities were required to transfer the district at the time of annexations. These annexations would not have been viable for the district without this FP5 revenue or large property tax transfers, or a larger property tax transfer from the cities. And a loss of this revenue to the unincorporated or other FP5's expansion areas would make continuation of service difficult. Next slide.
Okay, so the other issue that we needed to address is the deficit that existed when the district was created back in 2008. At that time, the deficit amount was indicated at 8.3 million. And since 2008, the county has provided general fund support ranging from 7.4 million to 27.5 million annually to the fire district. However, slide, thank you. And however, the county formally addressed in a long-term agreement in June of 2020. The agreement is initially for 10 years with automatic extensions, approved this long-term agreement between the county and the district. And what this agreement does is try to address and correct that gap. So, however, there were a couple of adjustments made. We adjusted the 8.3 million initial gap to address funding changes since 2008. This included OES that is now funded in the general fund that was included in that $8 million, and Station 53, the Baker Fire Station, that gets a separate allocation of general fund money. So really the amount is down to 7.3 million of what the base was. And then so that base was grown, since 2008, adjusted based on the assessed valuation growth that occurred post 2008, and is and does not include, of course, any of the assessed valuation growth that the district has received for any unincorporated or when the city's annexed into the fire district. That's excluded in the growth. And so for 1920, we received 9.1 million from this contract. In 2021, 9.5, and we estimate in 21-22 that we'll receive 9.8 million, but that number will be trued up once all of the assessed valuation information is available from the auditor controller.
Slide. jurisdiction is very unique in its size and complexity and scope. This map, everything within the black lines is our jurisdiction. Those areas that you see clear, those would be large military installations or other cities or fire district jurisdiction. Now you'll see a heat map on this slide. You'll see the reds and it kind of fades to yellow. These are where our local tax areas are, where the citizens are paying property tax and where FP5 is applied. Everywhere that you see gray is federal land, and the district receives no funding for these areas. That's why there's this complexity that's been ongoing since LAFCO 3000. Next slide. Through the last few years, we've had annual MOUs that are signed between the district and the county to provide enhanced fire rescue and EMS services, primarily to that gray area that you saw on your map. These services included support for the ambulance operations in the rural areas, fire and EMS operations, and then the Office of Emergency Services with some assistance with vehicle replacement, helicopter paramedics in our joint program with the San Bernardino County Sheriff and Wildland Services. The MOU reached a high of $27.5 million in 2018-19. That was just before the FP5 expansion. And for this year, this current fiscal year of 21-22, the MOU amount is $13.9 million. So there's been a decrease in that with FP5. The reduction reflects additional revenue that's been made available to the district from the expansion, as I just mentioned, in October 2018.
And then just to point out, that 13.9 million is in addition to the 9.8 million we're expecting from the LAFCO GAP contract that was approved in June of 2020 for a total general fund expectation of 23.7 million in 21-22.
Slide. One more. I'd like to talk a little bit about the operational efficiencies. As we're working hard on our revenues, we're also working hard on creating fiscal and operational efficiencies. Some of the ways that we've done that is established a formalized emergency medical service division. We've solidified and consolidated all the district ambulances under control of a centralized manager. That allows better accountability for the finances of that division, to ensure that we have better documentation, which leads to better revenue in the ambulance collections. It's to foster quicker hiring of personnel and training to reduce some of those overtime costs, and a focus on deploying the resources to provide a better patient outcomes. Next slide. We've also formalized a wildland aviation division under centralized management. The idea that previously the wildland division was a draw on the county fire administrative budget. Our administrative budgets could be, it's similar to a general fund budget of a city or county. We put this person there to increase management oversight, to provide the ability to increase contractual and grant funded revenues, included fuel maintenance contracts with utility companies, partnerships with other county departments, reimbursement for services provided to forestry agencies, including CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service, and to continue to construct the fire breaks and defensible space projects to limit fire spread with the goal of keeping wildfires 10 acres or less 90% of the time. In essence, we're shifting our budgets from being response to preventive. It's cheaper to prevent these fires than to respond to the large fires that we face. This divisional approach has reduced the impact of fires on our communities. It's limited damage to infrastructure, reduces the costly expenditures associated with fighting these large fires. In addition, this has demonstrated its ability to be self-funded through contracts and reimbursable assistance to other agencies. Next slide. We've also consolidated some of our divisions. In 2020, the North Desert, High Desert divisions, both which are located in the North Desert Service Zone, were merged into one division. They shared office staff and they share leadership. In 2020, reimbursable revenues were increased to ensure better tracking of costs and deployment resources on major incidents that receive state and federal aid. We put a focus on prevention of those fires, that cost avoidance model. We've worked hard on community risk reduction, which is an assessment of all the risks that are facing our communities, not just wildland, but earthquake, flood, even medical and structure fire emergencies. And we're working through public education to reduce these emergencies. We've established a standalone arson investigation unit. We have a lot of arsons in this county proportionately to other jurisdictions. This team has been out there with firework interdiction and writing citations in some cases for enforcement of fire laws, and is working towards being self-sufficient. We've increased our public education and our involvement with citizens coalitions, realizing that we're better together. Next slide. In conclusion, the district has had a balanced budget over the last several years. In the last 2 fiscal years, County General Fund has paid for enhanced services to the unfunded federal areas, that gray area that I showed you on the map, but was not required to provide fire and rescue services to the communities that are paying property tax and FP5. Capital infrastructure is funded. 4 new fire stations are in the current planning process, with a 5th soon to be added. Fire equipment apparatus replacement is funded and being replaced based on industry recommended guidelines. That would be NFPA 1911. Finally, a loss of FP5 would result in the closure of fire stations and reduction of service to maintain this balanced budget. Next slide. Chair, I'll turn this back over to you, see if there's any questions from the committee.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Does the commission have questions of County Fire?
Mr. Chair, a question on the FP5. They're circulating a petition to put it on the ballot again.
Sir, there's a citizen group that has notified the registration or the ROV that they are going to circulate that petition to repeal FP5.
With the goal of putting it on a special election or on one of the regularly scheduled elections?
They haven't indicated to us which election that would be. I believe that we're under the assumption that would be a normal general election.
In 2022?
Yes, sir.
Other questions from the commission? Chief Muncy, I appreciate your presentation. This is a complicated issue. FP5 has you raised some of the highlighted issues. We have incorporated cities who voluntarily entered into FP5, and then we have the county. So it's a complicated issue, and I appreciate your detailed explanation of where we are today. I have a quick question for you about emergency services in communities like Baker. Is the county primarily responding to accidents on the freeway there? Is that something that you just eat out of your budget?
Baker's a unique situation. There is the Baker CSD, which actually has their own fire department. However, they tend to only respond within the community of Baker. The freeways, the rail transmission, aircraft would be another emergency, utilities, all those responses are handled by county fire. The county is part of the MOU with county fire. That 13.9 million pays, a portion of that pays for that fire station in Baker so that we can protect those federal lands, that immense federal land that's in that area.
I know school districts get federal impact funds. They're responsible for children, education of children for communities that don't pay property tax. So much of San Bernardino County is the federal lands. It's a complex issue, and I know it's a joint agency response. But I also think that we have a disproportionate burden with some of these rural roads like historic Route 66 and Highway 10, where the county is expected to provide emergency medical services and responses to a large geographic area without some sort of dispensation. So there's some complicated issues that are beyond the discussion here at LAFCO.
Yes, sir. I've had discussions with my peer in LA County. They have small pockets of federal land, and generally cities or counties have a response of 5-10 minutes to get into those federal lands. They don't see the 4.5 to 6 hour response for service that you'll see in our very immense federal land. Over 70% of our jurisdiction is federal land where there is no reimbursement for those services that are provided. So it creates some difficulty in providing service to those areas.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Commissioners have additional questions. Go ahead, Supervisor Hagman.
Thank you very much. I just want to say we're very pleased that the chief is taking this in the right direction for county fire. It is a complex situation. We need all of our members of the community, all our San Bernardino cities and other public agencies to keep advocating to the federal government to pay for their fair share as well of the coverage of the area. And then FP5 is so integral part of us to have basic life support systems for our residents and tourists that come through our county on a day-to-day basis. So it is a complicated situation. I totally support the staff recommendations. The county fire is doing a fantastic job of what they got right now, but we still need to keep working and advocating for more as we go forward.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
If FP5 repeal makes it to the ballot and is successful, I would request that we bring this item back to LAFCO at that time. If it fails, no need to review it again, but I think we need to review the fire service if that passes, if it gets on the ballot and passes.
Commissioner McCallum, thank you very much. The recommendation is to receive and file this report and cease monitoring San Bernardino County Protection District. The threat to FB5 is very serious, and I think that's something that we need to address if indeed they move forward and we have a ballot issue challenging this again.
Chairman, just a quick comment, if you don't mind, Supervisor Baca.
Yes, please, Supervisor Baca.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I appreciate Chief Muncie's, his comments, his update. He gave me a briefing on Monday on this issue. But one of the challenges, even with FP5, that we have, especially like in the city of San Bernardino, is with FP5, it deals with the service itself, but it really doesn't deal with a lot of the infrastructure we have within our community, whether it's new fire trucks, whether it's new stations, which are basically outdated. So when the county inherited the city of San Bernardino, became part of the fire district, it really didn't address infrastructure. So even with FP5, which is needed, is still a lot of issues not addressed within the county sphere of influence with the county services. But just wanted to make that comment, and thank you, Chief Muncie, for your good work.
I want to point out real quick that I'm just the man behind a really great woman, and it's been a blessing to have Katrina Turturro here to put us on the right track.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Chief Katrina. Very excellent presentation. We appreciate you being here. I'll ask the Commission Clerk, are there any written comments submitted for this item?
None received.
Okay, this is a discussion item. I will now ask the public on Zoom who wishes to speak on this item to raise your hand with the raise the hand button on Zoom. If you're participating via Zoom on the phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9. Do we have any requests to speak? Any further discussion from the Commission?
Mr. Chair McCallum, I'll move the item with the proviso that if FP5 makes the ballot and is successful, that we come back to the Commission at that time with an update.
I have a recommendation with a motion from Commissioner McCallum. Do I have a second?
Cox will second.
I have a second from Cox. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Baca.
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Cox.
Aye.
Commissioner Curatello.
Curatello, aye.
Commissioner Hagman.
Hagman, aye.
Commissioner McAllen.
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison.
Dennison, yes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 15, the Commission's continued monitoring of the Barstow Cemetery District as outlined in our service review for public cemetery districts. I'll ask the staff to give the presentation.
Okay, sir. So we have nothing on slides to show you. I'm just going to speak here for a minute or two. As the staff report outlines, we've been monitoring Barstow Cemetery for a few hearings now. This is an outgrowth from the public cemetery district service review that took place earlier this year. The district has a backload of audits. So unfortunately, there were a number of issues, and the auditor of a few months ago could not maintain its independence due to the amount of journal entries that had to be made. Therefore, they removed themselves from as an independent auditor, and they are a bookkeeper. The district has hired a new independent auditor. He's contacted LAFCO with a lengthy update. Long story short, as we saw with Adelano, when you have to do a backload of audits, the first year is the one that takes the longest because you have a deep hole. And it's not just about doing the numbers for that year. It's also about internal controls. So you got to go through the internal controls and the interviews and whatnot for that agency. That being said, there is no timeline, but they are working on this. So that is the unfortunate response. The fortunate side is that they're working on it. They have a new auditor and they're moving. The unfortunate is that there's nothing to provide to you today. And I do not anticipate an audit being provided to you within the coming months. That this will take a while. That's our understanding of the matter. But there are a number of agencies with eyes on this district, and people are trying to help. So we have a conversion project for landscaping, which has been discussed with the commission. They have a lot of grass, and they're having to pay potable water prices for that. That could reach up to $20,000 a month in dollars during the summertime. So they are trying to move towards xeriscaping, which would be rocks and a more water efficient design. The Mojave Water Agency is in essence the lead on this project. So it's not a Barstow Cemetery District project. And the Golden State Water Company is assisting Mojave Water Agency in this matter. So there is positive movement. The outline provided by Mojave Water Agency is a part of your staff report. Additionally, the third supervisorial district is in discussions, as well as the first district, because the cemetery district is so large. It's part of two supervisor districts. Staffs from both districts are in conversations with any way they can support, which would be assisting with grant writing or whatever questions the district may have. And then there's LAFCO providing its push to get it into compliance, as well as being in the middle with the other agencies. So that is it for the cemetery district. It's a big hole, and it's going to take quite some time to move out of it. Hannah, slide, please. We're recommending to come back to the commission at the November 17 meeting unless the commission directs otherwise. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
The commissioners have any questions of LAFCO staff? Do we have anyone from the Barstow Cemetery District in attendance?
I see a name, but I don't know if they're hands up or not.
Well, I welcome your opportunity. If you would like to participate, the staff recommendation is to come back with this item for further review in November. Any comments or questions from the commission? Okay, I'll ask the commission clerk, are there any written comments submitted on this item?
None received.
I will now call on the public on Zoom who wish to speak on this item. Please raise your hand if you are participating via the conference on Zoom. If you are participating via phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. This is Michael. I do see someone.
All right, then Hannah, can you unmute them?
Yeah. Go ahead, Melinda.
Hi, I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you to Mike Turpey for representing us all along. And thank you for your patience to everybody else. We are in, like they said, we're in a huge hole. We are finally getting the help and the resources that we need, and we are on the right path, but it will take some time. And just once again, thank you for your patience.
Just to let the commissioners know, Ms. Johnson is the general manager for the district.
Sorry. Yes.
Johnson, welcome. We're glad to have your participation.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of the commission for Ms. Johnson? If not, I will ask the commission of the clerk, do we have any written comments from the public on this item?
None received?
Okay, for those members of the public who are participating on the Zoom conference call wishing to speak, you can raise your hand using the raise your hand button if you'd like to participate in the conference. If you are participating via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9. Do we have any requests to speak?
Mr. Chair, if I may add, this is Sam. I know it's disheartening to note that we still don't have the audits. We'll keep on pushing on this one. We know we're going to come back. I don't know if we'll have it by then, but rest assured that we will continue to push for the audits to be completed. Thank you.
All right, seeing nobody on the public asking for requests or any other items or discussion, deliberation from the commission staff, from the commissioners. So I'm glad to have you address the audit. I'm glad Mrs. Johnson was on here. It is very disconcerting that we still don't have them. I'm glad to see the Mojave Water Agency step up in a big way trying to help the agency. So hopefully we'll have a more positive report in November. With that, I would entertain a motion on the recommendation from staff. We receive and file this report and bring it back for the November 17th hearing.
Curatello, so moved.
A motion by Curatello.
Dennison will second.
Second by Dennison. Clerk of the commission, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Baca,
Okay.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Curatello,
Aye.
Commissioner Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes,
Commissioner Dennison.
Dennison, yes.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to item number 16. Item 16 is an update on the Park and Recreation Service Review. I'd ask the staff for the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Hannah, move the slide, please. So there are two items on this, and usually you'd say, well, this could be a consent item, but it's the second piece as to why it's a discussion. We are recommending that the service review that we anticipated for November to actually take place now to the commission in January 2022. There's two reasons for that. One, is the delayed release of census data. Due to the pandemic, the census data is not going to be released, estimated until late September, early October, in order to produce the mapping that we need, which includes population, disadvantaged communities, and all the analysis that goes along with it. We can't make the November deadline. It's not really a deadline, it's just what our staff's estimate would be. We're now anticipating presentation in January 22. But the reason why this is a discussion and not just a consent item for the commission is that during our data gathering phase, we have discovered grave concerns with the Big River Community Services District. So Big River is right at the Colorado River, right going into Arizona. And the general issues have been known to LAFCO staff as well as the county for some time. And these are the master lease of the park being on Indian land, and that expires in 2029. And it's declining revenues due to receipts of its assessment. So we've known those, but it's the speed in this decline which is now putting it in a grave situation. At this time, the general manager is paid for roughly 8 hours a week. There's deferred maintenance, and the maintenance staff have been terminated. The district plans to take over its collection of its assessments from the county. So there are some issues with the assessments. It's not getting its full collection. And so the district is moving into plans to take over this. But that's going to take time as well as funds because they have to do the work. During this service review data gathering phase. We've interviewed the general manager. Sam and I attended the district's meeting last Saturday virtually. We've met with staff from the first supervisorial district, and today we're going to be meeting with staff from the county administrative office, and that would be head staff. So the purpose of this is to update you, the commission, about this grave concern to us. But we're going to, at this time, proceed with the January 2022 presentation. However, the commission can direct staff to isolate this report, expedite it, and present it as soon as possible, which would be not the service review for the park, but to isolate Big River as its own service review and present it in November 2021. Or a third option could be is to leave that discretion with our executive officer to isolate it should he see fit. But we'll know a little bit more after we have our meeting today with the administrative office and see what the county's assessment is. So at this time, we're just recommending receive and file unless the commission gives direction to the executive officer. Thank you.
Commissioners have comments or questions of staff?
Kellen, I would think it would be prudent to leave it up to the executive officer decision after he has meetings with staff as to whether we separate this item out or not.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner McCowan, yes. I mean, it's either November or January. That's not a lot of time anyway. So we'll see. We'll know by after our meeting what LAFCO can do internally that would change things dramatically. Or if it's not really much, then we'll just continue it for the January meeting. So I'll make that. That's the other option. Or if you're gonna give me direction to do it now, that's up to you. So.
Further questions from the commission on this item? Sam, how's the November agenda right now? Is it heavy?
No, we can easily put this on the November agenda. But again, it's a matter of a couple months difference. But if we want to put this in November, we can.
This is a receive and file item, and I think you probably have adequate direction. I would also echo Commissioner McCollum's direction that we just leave it up to you. Clerk of the Commission, do we have any written comments on this item?
None received.
Any members of the public participating on the Zoom conference call, if you wish to speak on this item, you can raise your hand using the raise the hand button, and I will call on you. For those of you who are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Do we have any requests to speak? If not, I'm going to bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Are there any further commissioner comments? This is a receive and file report.
Mr. Chair.
He has comment.
Thank you. I was just curious, this is a CSD. Is this only Park Services District, or are there any other services as well as Park and Recreation?
They have an authorized function also of street lighting, but it's not active. So the only active service that they provide is Park and Recreation.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Farrell, I'm sorry if you raised your hand, I didn't see it, but I'm glad to have you speak up. Any other commissioners with comments? If not, it's a receive and file item. I will move on to item number 17 now. Relates to the LAFCO Board of Directors election and appointment for a voting delegate coming up for our next, and an alternate voting delegate also for the upcoming conference. Ask the staff to give a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you indicated, this is for the upcoming LAFCO annual conference in October. The specifics, there's two-part, for this item, this is a two-part recommendation. The first one is on the selection of the voting delegate and the alternate voting delegate for this LAFCO at the conference. There are a couple of times that the delegates vote, one during the regional caucus to vote on the board member seats that are up for election. and then during the CalAFCO annual business meeting. Staff's recommendation is to have Chair Bagley as the voting delegate, and we had Vice Chair Aquanetta as the alternate. However, I was informed yesterday by her staff that she will not be able to attend the CalAFCO conference this year, so staff is changing that recommendation to have me as the alternate voting delegate instead. The second part of the recommendation relates to the 2 Southern Region positions on the CalAFCO board whose terms are expiring this year. And that is for the county and district seats on the CalAFCO board. Although both current representatives for the county and district seats for our region have expressed their interest in continuing, we do have a practice of also nominating a secondary nominee as a backup. I do want to point out that the other year, this commission nominated Dr. Cox as the backup district nominee. So for the second part of the recommendation, staff is providing the commission with the option of either nominating a district representative and or a county representative for the board of director positions, or the other option is to select the incumbents, Mike Kelly and Joe McKenzie, to continue their term as a CalAFCO in the CalAFCO board. So again, the recommendation is selecting the voting and alternate delegate for this commission for the upcoming conference, and then nominating or selecting either a district and or a county member for the CalAFCO board. That ends my presentation.
Commissioners, any comments? Do we have interested commissioners wanting to participate at CalAFCO?
Mr. Chair, I'm ready for a motion whenever you're ready.
Okay. Because we're on the Zoom meeting, Jim, let me call for the public and then I'll ask for a motion.
Thank you.
Any other discussion items from the commission to the staff? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk, do we have any written comments on this item?
None received.
Anyone participating on the Zoom meeting, you can comment by raising your hand. I will recognize you. If you're on the phone, you can request to speak by pressing *9. Do we have any requests to speak? At this time, I'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation, and Commissioner Carlotalo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to, as far as staff's recommendation for the first, to nominate you, Mr. Bagley, as the member and voting member, and then Sam Martinez as the alternate. And as far as the second, for the representative, I'd like to nominate Kimberly Cox as the special districts member.
Very good. I have a recommendation from Commissioner Carlotalo. Kimberly, are you available?
Yes, sir. I would be honored to serve in that capacity if it's the desire of the commission.
McCallum will second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner McCallum, and an enthusiastic embrace from Commissioner Cox to participate. I'll ask the commission clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Baca,
Hawkeye.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Curatello,
Curatello, aye.
Commissioner Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison.
Dennison, yes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 18 on the agenda, the legislative report. Sam, please go ahead. And Kimberly, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Cox. So for the ledge report, I only have an oral report today. The legislature is now in summer recess until August 16. Couple of items I would just indicate: the CalAFCO Omnibus Bill AB 1581, which the commission officially supported, was signed by the governor into law June 28th, 2021. The other bill that the commission supported, SB 13, our pilot program, has been ordered to the third reading and is expected to reach the governor's desk as well. So the other bills that CalAFCO was tracking, like most agencies, relate to the open meeting and public meeting bills, are still moving forward, except for AB 703, which is now a 2-year bill. Hopefully after the recess is over, we will have more activity and I may have additional information to report on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions of the commission? If not, Sam, let's move on to item number 19, the executive officer's report.
Thank you again. First, I just wanted to remind the commission that we are not having an August meeting, and then that our next scheduled meeting will be on September 15, which is being planned for at this time an in-person meeting. Now, barring any new mandates being implemented, the plan is to prepare to have an in-person meeting unless otherwise told. Obviously, with the rising cases, things may change. We will keep you posted for any changes. I will continue to coordinate with the chair regarding this item. So at this time, we will be moving forward with an in-person meeting in September. Secondly, we have reestablished the ad hoc admin committee for this year to go over our lease options related to the LAFCO office, as well as to review our upcoming audit and budget. So as outlined in the staff report, the members of the ad hoc admin committee will be Chair Bagley, Vice Chair Warren, and Commissioner McKellen. With regard to the annual conference, I have 2 commissioners expressing their desire to attend the conference at this time. I would like to just see if anyone else is attending. Let me know right away, or if anybody is actually just considering to attend. I'd like to know as soon as possible so we can coordinate registration and hotel reservations before we run out of rooms. So I've also provided you with information on the CalAFCO Achievement Awards. And finally, I've also provided you with the quarterly CalAFCO report. That ends my EO report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioners, any comments or questions?
Chair Dennison.
Hi, go ahead, Rick.
Yes, Sam, one question on resuming of in-person meetings. Will there be a hybrid model available for the public and commissioners if they choose not to participate for any reason in person?
So at this time, we are hoping not to do a hybrid. It's challenging to do a hybrid. The governor's proclamation, the new proclamation, allows us to have the electronic meetings up to the September 30th. Obviously, if there is a request that we do a Zoom meeting again, I would prefer that we do it as an all-out Zoom because it's challenging to try to allow the public to be on the Zoom, and then the rest of the commissioners will also be on Zoom. So I think if ever, I would prefer that we have an all in-person meeting, or we given the fact that we're the extension to have the Zoom meetings is up to the 30th, that you take that opportunity to have our September meeting as our last Zoom meeting, particularly with whether it's with the rising cases, whether that would be prudent to have it still on Zoom. So I would leave it out to the commission, but I would prefer that we choose one or the other.
And then this is Paula D'Souza, legal counsel. Following September 30th, unless there's any changes with health orders or executive orders by the governor, we go back to the old version, the version of the Brown Act that we've been so used to, which allows participation of commissioners remotely, but you need to have the agendas posted at the location. You need to allow members of the public to participate from those locations, and you basically treat that other location as a full meeting location for all purposes. But we'll continue to monitor this, and Sam and I are looking at this constantly.
All right, thank you both for that clarification and having an alternate plan.
The commissioners weigh in on the meeting options. Sam, I feel the same way. I think we are either all in with Zoom or not, and let's just be flexible. The COVID-19 Delta variant is certainly a disturbing development. Nobody knows where we're going to be. So let's just analyze it as it comes forward.
Yeah, and what will happen is because we have a 21-day notice requirement, we would definitely have to make that decision towards mid-August to make the decision whether or not we would continue on Zoom or not. So we will update the rest of the commission on that.
Sam, do you have anything else under the executive officer's report?
No, that is it. But I do want to, if there's anybody who wants to attend the conference, please let me know as soon as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sam, I'm interested, but the situation's fluid too with COVID-19. Mr. Farrell, please. Commissioner Farrell.
Yeah, just on that same topic for the Zoom versus in person. My only comment is I would prefer us to be conservative in our precautions. So if there is any legitimate concern, I'd prefer to do the Zoom and delay it. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrell. Anybody else? We'll move on to item 20, which is commissioner comments. Any commissioners wishing to make a comment at this time? I'm looking forward to seeing you all in person too, but let's just see what happens with COVID-19 Delta variant. We'll move on to item 21, comments from the public on items, matters of jurisdiction that were not on the agenda. I ask the commission clerk, do we have any written comments submitted for this item?
None received.
Okay, members of the public participating on Zoom, if you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand by clicking the raise your hand icon on the Zoom platform. If you're participating via the phone, please raise your hand by *9. Do we have any requests to speak? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn until our next meeting, which I believe will be in September. Is that correct, Sam?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So moved. Everyone enjoy the cold weather.
A motion by Commissioner McCall. So we're adjourned. We will see you in September.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
And thank you, staff, for all your work on the Zoom conference.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye, everybody. Be well.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.